Sometimes love isn't enough. As an adoptive mom, people would often say this to me, as if to imply I couldn't love my son enough to change behaviors or heal his trauma, so I should probably just give up. At least that's how I took those four powerful words, which had buried themselves deeply in my mind, leading me to doubt my ability to parent my child. Sometimes love isn't enough. That is the truth. Oftentimes, you need love and powerful, personalized tools to raise a child who's experienced trauma and disrupted attachment, or a child who you're struggling to connect with. I am on a mission to help parents raising kids with a tricky past to show up with unconditional love and practical tools to lovingly manage even the most challenging of times. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Plus, if you like what you hear, I'd love for you to leave a review. Now let's get to the good stuff. Welcome back to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. For today's episode, I want to talk about mealtime. I've talked about mealtime in the past as it relates to, our ability to connect with others. We see such a variation of mealtime from one family to the next, and we all have different thoughts and traditions around mealtime. When I think about mealtime growing up, I know that there certainly were days that mealtime was really prioritized, and when having a family meal together was really important. I remember uh, my dad teaching me how to cook some of the famous family meals, passing down family recipes. And I remember having some really memorable meal times. But I also remember a lot of rush and, making sure the kids are fed while dad was working on other projects around the house. Uh, in a recent episode, I was talking about, our drive to parent differently than we were parented. And I'm not even really sure where this thought process came from because I don't have necessarily negativity around the traditions of mealtime growing up. But as soon as I had my daughter, I made it a rule in our home that mealtime is a time to be together. And as phones became a thing, I also had a rule that phones weren't allowed at the table. No TV on, no phones. This was harder to enforce when my relationship with my significant other at the time was not going so well. And so that respect made that really hard. And that's actually what I want to talk about today is that when we really put an emphasis on mealtime, it has a direct reflection on our sense of self-worth. So, like I was saying, when my daughter was little, I made it a rule. I decided that in our home, mealtime was a priority, and eating together as a family every day, whenever possible, was something that I really emphasized. Of course, over my adult life, I've had jobs that sometimes I work later, or the other parent has been working later, which can make it challenging. Or as the kids became teenagers and had their own jobs or own commitments, of course, there were times where mealtime it just couldn't happen together. That's just part of reality of being a family and having, parents who are working and kids who are doing things. But but I know in my heart that the kids prioritize mealtime. We had a phase where my son didn't have mealtime with us for a couple of years. I've shared how really challenging our relationship was, and he wasn't even at our home for over a year. And which was extremely hard for me as mom, but I learned so much in that time. And one of the most interesting things that happened when my son did have that first mealtime back with us is he was right back to the same expectations and standards that we had at family mealtime. I've also watched as my daughter has instilled those same traditions and expectations. with her kids and her family about really prioritizing mealtime. Even if we're not all eating the same thing, we do really all eat together most of the time. At least, I would say at least 4 days a week that we really prioritize that time. And it gives us a chance to check in with each other, see how the day went, and to really shut out other other nonsense that's happening in life. For today's episode, I really want to talk about why this is important. It isn't just something that I made up or that experts recommend, but the way we do one thing is the way that we do everything, really. And like I had said a few moments ago, when my relationship was in a really tricky spot in a past relationship and I wasn't valuing myself, I also really struggled to have that same level of expectation because I wasn't upholding my own value. And it reflected in the way that that mealtime looked. We know that when we can really prioritize having a meal together, taking the time to clean the table off, create a space that is dedicated to a reflection of our self-worth, it can have a profound impact on the way that you show up for yourself in other areas of life. So I don't know if you have a traditional mealtime that you're engaging in right now, but even if you are, I'm going to share a few suggestions that you can take or leave, but I really believe that when we can really implement a mealtime with ourselves or with our family that reflects our self-worth, it has or reflects the self-worth that we are working towards having. It really does have a profound impact on the way that we show up for ourselves. When we can show up for our body in a way that says to our body that I am dedicated to minimizing distractions. I'm dedicated to giving you the nourishment that you need to sustain your energy every day so that you can do the things that you were on this planet to do. When we can do that for our body every day in a consistent way, it has an impact on the rest of us. So here are a few tips that I would recommend, and they don't just come from me, they come from research and from other experts in the field of psychology who really see mealtime as a priority when it comes to our relationship with ourselves and others. So a couple of things to think about is the space that you eat your meal in. Do you have a space that's dedicated just to eating a meal, or are you eating on the couch while you're watching TV? It matters. Does this dedicated space, does it look nice and appealing? Does it make you feel good when you're at your dining room table? Does it feel inviting and clean? Or does it feel cluttered and like you're not even quite sure where your space to sit is? A couple of years ago, we were building a cabin for our family and to share that space with others. And while we were building the cabin, I decided to try my hand at some woodworking. I can't make anything square to say to save my life, I'm sure, but I do love buying pieces of live edge wood and sanding them and putting epoxy and oftentimes glitter. I also pull in other elements from nature, but anyways, I had bought this beautiful piece of wood and had put hours and hours. I mean, I can't even describe how many hours. I should have tracked it. But I made this beautiful table. And it was so beautiful that I decided that I needed it in our home. I had originally made it for the cabin, but I'm so glad that I did. I liked the table we had before when, like I said, mealtime has always been a priority as long as I've uh, had the adult's choice to do so. But bringing this table home that I made, I mean, I didn't make the wood, but I made the table and I made it beautiful the way that it is today. And watching my family eat around this table and enjoy it together has that simple change has had a profound impact on the way that we connect and relate together too. So thinking about the furniture that you sit on, is it comfortable? Or the table that you're sitting at, do you like it? Are there things that you can change that you have power over to change? Or has your dining room table become a dropping ground for all the mail that comes into the house, or um, the recyclables that need to go out to the bin, or whatever it might be? Really taking time to create a space that's comfortable, that feels like home, that you enjoy sitting at is a really important step. And then when you think about the presentation of the food, thinking about the dishes that you serve it on, or if you like to do a family style where you bring all the food to the table and, everybody gets to scoop out their own at the table, thinking about how that's presented in a way that feels good to you, a way that feels like you're not just putting food in your mouth to get through the day, but that you are presenting your food in a way that you enjoy and um, that brings you a sense of pride. Then thinking about the actual food that you're putting in your body. When we're rushing and getting fast food, eating it out of paper containers, or sometimes even eating in our car, it it doesn't have the same impact that preparing food, even if you're not any good at cooking, you don't have to be. Preparing food that is good for your body, that provides nutritional value, that leaves your body feeling good after you eat it, is also a really important part of mealtime. Because when we're eating food that perhaps in the moment it might taste good because, a lot of fast food places put all the right ingredients in there so that food tastes good. But if afterwards you feel regret or a stomach ache or other things related to the food that you're eating, it might not be the food that your body wants and needs. And so really prioritizing putting good food in your body at least a few days a week, again, can have such a great impact on your sense of self-worth. And then the conversation that happens at the table. Now, you may be in a situation right now where you're eating alone. So perhaps it's a time to journal or to have a conversation with yourself. What do you want to talk about at dinner time? What do you want to share about your day or reflect on or be curious about why you experienced what you experienced? And if you're not eating alone and you have family members, to really take that time to use mealtime as a time when you're face to face and you really can connect with the people that you love most and hear about their day, hear about their experiences, good, bad, or otherwise. Because I don't know about you, but in my life, it's easy to just rush by the day and realize that you never even asked anybody how their day was. I know that in my home, at the very least, every day at mealtime, I check in with my family to see how their day was. It's cute because the 2-year-old has started asking people, "How was your day today?" She started to realize that that's part of the routine at the dinner table, which means she's going to carry on that tradition, perhaps. When we put all of these pieces together, from the space that you're eating in, the way that your food looks, smells, tastes, how it makes your body feel, and the conversations that we have at mealtime. And we really take a step back and look at all of that together. And what does that all mean? It might seem like it's just a meal, but when we go back to what we started talking about in this episode, is that it isn't just a meal. The way that we approach mealtime has a direct reflection of the way that we feel about our own self-worth. So I encourage you to consider what are some things that you can do to enhance your family mealtime so that you can step into a greater level of your own self-worth. I hope that you found this episode so incredibly powerful. Thank you for joining us for Sometimes Love Isn't Enough. If you resonated with what you heard here, please subscribe to this podcast and give us a review. You can also follow us on all the socials. Check the show notes for all the details about how to start tackling behaviors and creating a powerful, loving relationship with your child, a child who needs your love the most. And if your gut's telling you that it's time for a change now, book a free consult. I'd love to help you love unconditionally and show you that you have that power within you.